Hello and welcome to the Love Foundry Podcast. We are live. It is July 12th. And the title is Time to Plug In and Come Alive with Love.
Is that what we're on about today?
That's what we're on about. Plugging in, coming alive to love.
Yeah, Taylor may join us in a few minutes. She's busy hog-tying kids in Hawaii, so let's see how that goes.
Yeah, that can take a long time.
Yeah, the question is, what's up for today? What's going on in the world today? Because that's where we are. We're all there, and it's now. Now is the only time we got. Wait a second. I just got a message from Seb. So she just got home from the library. I guess one of the kids wanted to get a book. She's going to jump on when she gets a second. Cool. So the question before the house when we do a live podcast is what's up in the world, and particularly for our conversation, what's up in the world of love, because most of the world is ignoring the reality that includes love as life expressing itself through form. Instead, we're observing and interacting with what the world would be like if love were not in our consciousness, which is, of course, an illusion about life, because life is always available, always there, always manifesting through all levels of the cosmic universe, physical universe included. And just to be clear, the cosmic physical universe, as far as the universe is concerned, life is concerned, includes all those what we would call higher planes. The astral plane, which is not much higher than the dense physical plane, the mental plane, which is above that, the Buddhic plane, which is above that, the Atmic plane above that, the monadic plane, and the logoic plane. These are stratas of life. And because we think of spiritual things up there, heaven up there, angels up there, and those higher planes, we think of the material world as the cosmic physical plane, but in fact, that's just the lowest levels of it. Yeah. The 18 fires, as they call them, which is 2 planes with 7 subplanes in each of them, which is 14, and then 4 more of the mental plane, which are still matter, material, dense from cosmic point of view. So everything above that is not part of some mysterious ethereal universe. It's part of the cosmic physical universe. The fact that we are unconscious of it in our material bodies is our problem. It's not the universe's problem. Well, it is, because we're part of the universe, but we should think about that as something to think about in our interpretation of life. Completely outside of the cosmic physical universe, with all of its planes and subplanes and all of its myriad lives, is a cosmic plane, the cosmic astral plane, because that's reflecting itself in our astral plane, in the cosmic physical. So all of the cosmic planes reflect themselves in the various stratas and layers of the cosmic physical plane, just as your physical form has all of those levels in it if you choose to make yourself conscious of them. And you will at some day do that. All of us will, because we'll want to. We'll get hungry for it. I mean, if there's something in the fridge, at some point or another, we want to go over there and open the door and see what we can eat. So, and humanity's been working its way through its desires and appetites for the densest material worlds, to the point that we've been ignoring all the subtler ones that are within it, deeper, less obvious. But that causes an imbalance in the human race, which has led to the difficulties we're in now. And that imbalance is basically due to an ignorance or ignorance of love itself. It's just not something we're taking into conscious account, except in a somewhat reflective or kind of vague way where we're treating other people nicely because they deserve it. It's something that love would do, but we don't know how to empower ourselves with that energy
So I
and
want
distribute it. What?
can be right back.
Oh, well, okay, Seb, if you if you're gonna go, then I guess you're gonna go. So what I'm saying about this energy is it's available and it's in the environment. And when we hold a podcast, we are interested in turning our attention to what's up in the world right now, inclusive of the kingdom of love, because it's always here, it's always acting. In fact, it's causing everything else to appear. And the way it appears is the way in which we personally relate to love, and the way we have shown in the past, which is what karma is about, how we relate to it. Oh, you're back.
I'm back.
Now, you went dark. You didn't just go away. So did you put the thing on stop or hold, or did you just walk away?
It's still going. So I removed myself from this stage. Yeah, sorry, I had to go. I had a roommate who locked themselves out, and they were shouting for me, so I had to go rescue them back in.
Okay, well, they don't deserve it, damn it. We're on a podcast.
I know.
Well, but that's the point of live things. Live things include life, your roommates included. You don't have to turn us all off to do that because we're still talking, we're still relating. But I don't know that. You see, I don't know that when you go away and everything goes blank over there because you left the studio, whether I'm recording or not recording, you're keeping that secret to yourself.
Yeah, I should let you know. But yeah, you're still live. You were live. You're still in.
Well, it doesn't matter. I just carry on.
Life.
Yeah, it's life. Life is a thing that, as John Lennon says, it happens when you're making plans. So yeah, and the same thing is true. Taylor's back from the library trying to put away things and eventually will join us probably. So what's going on in the world of love right now that humanity should perhaps be aware of? Well, us discussing what we think is going on there is not nearly as important as people tuning into it themselves, because there's such a vast enterprise. A universe of love, a planet of love, a solar system of love is an amazing and major function going on. So everyone needs to tune into their perspective of it, their window into it. Everybody's, oh, hello, Taylor.
Hi, sorry for the tardy arrival.
Yeah. It's going on your permanent record. But we were talking about, what the hell are we talking about? What was our title today, Seb?
The title is Time to Plug In and Come Alive with Love. Take
All
us
right,
away, Taylor.
Turn it up, Taylor.
Time to plug in. Well, what are you plugging into?
Well, we were just discussing the reality that most people on the planet are not tuned into, plugged into, active in the world of life, inclusive of love, as a dynamic property. It's a dynamic property of life, but it's not a dynamic property in our conscious awareness, unless we happen to be in an act of love, making love, doing love, creating something with love. In other words, we're love adjacent, so to speak, because the human habit of being unconscious of love is so deeply ingrained in all of us.
Yeah.
And
I see what you mean.
And is that true in your life, do you think, or is that just me making it up?
No, I know what you're talking about, though. It's like the time that you're actually in it is when you're swept up in it, almost. It's not a conscious act. It's like it overtakes you.
Yeah.
So,
Kind
And so
of.
you experience it, like falling in love, or things like
Right.
that, where it's so
Going to the
powerful.
library.
It's just there. But it is, it's like everything is that act. I mean, there's nothing really outside of it. It's just, yeah, how do you plug into that consciously and stay connected? 'Cause you really put yourself in the posture that we've talked about a lot.
Right.
You're there, but how do you stay plugged in, to that consciousness without, I mean, you keep building up that momentum, you start building that connection, and it grows, obviously, but there's got to be a way to just plug in and stay connected.
Right. Well,
I
that's
expect that you're going to tell us that in this podcast. I'm glad I'm here.
Well, yes, because you have within you the faculties necessary to do that. Every human being does. And over the period of the human race, those faculties have gradually and slowly been coming into our awareness, where we realize, oh, I really can throw a ball. I really can do things that I didn't know I could do. If you go out and get a potter's wheel and set it up in a little studio at your house, you're going to look at it when it first starts turning, and you're going to see a lump of clay sitting there. And that's it. It's a lump of clay. How to turn that into a pot that you paint and fire in a kiln, that's something you may not know how to do. So it just sits there and looks at you as the little wheel turns, and you think to yourself, what do I do now? We're not much different than that when it comes to the dynamic energy of love. It's what life puts into the cosmic physical universe to make it live, to make it create, to make it active, to make it dynamically feasible. And as they say, love is the energy that caused the spheres to rotate, which means everything from an atom to a human being to a planetary system to a solar system to a galactic whirlpool galaxy like the one we're in. So from the little to the big, it's love that causes it to rotate and to live and to be dynamic. Now, how are you going to make yourself conscious of that energy? But because remember the esoteric axiom, if a person is not conscious of something, for them, that thing simply does not exist. That's the trouble with conscious awareness. If you're not conscious of a thing, for that moment that you're not conscious of it, it ceases to exist for you. Now, when you drive away from your property and go to the library, the property doesn't disappear back into the void from whence it came. It's still there because your neighbors are walking down the street and the dog's hanging out there chewing on one of the shoes you've forgotten left by the door, or a hat that you may have left within its reach. But the point is, you're not conscious of it. It's out of your awareness. So for that moment, it's not existence. It's not in existence for you, literally. It may be on fire. It may be burning to the ground. There may be fire engines all up and down the street, but you are completely unconscious and unaware of it until your phone rings and somebody says, hey, did you know your house is burning down? Now suddenly it's back in your consciousness. And this is true of love, the very essence of life that gives life to everything, creative power to everything. And humanity is so unconscious of it that we haven't yet, as a group, a planetary group, realized this. Now, why haven't we realized this? That's an important thing to realize, because that's what makes reality real, not just movement, not just activity. Love is a property of life. If you take it out of your consciousness, then what have you got left? You've got some will energy left. You've got some intelligence left floating around, but love makes things go round. So how do we become plugged into that? We don't just want to plug into life. We want to plug into, or to love. We want to plug into life with love. But you're already plugged into your willingness to live. You're willing. Your heart is beating and you're active and you're dynamic. So will is moving along in you. And, you apply it to everything you decide to do next. You're also intelligence because you're grabbing intelligence to apply it to whatever you're doing next in a very automatic and habitual way. You've got will and intelligence rolling along with you pretty good. What you're not applying is the dynamic and creative power of love consciously to your life. Now, you are applying it to your life directly. You're taking care of your kids, you're cleaning up their mess, you're combing their hair, you're talking to them in a nice way, or you're not talking to them in a nice way, which, knowing your kids, it could go either way. So how are you going to stay conscious of applying love dynamically to your experience? Because if the human race does that, should we choose to take up that cross, not to make a pun, but should we take up that cross, our lives will change. We won't be very good at it at the beginning because we don't even know what the stuff is. We've been without it in our consciousness so long. How do you love something? Not the action of how you do it, but the knowingness of applying it. And that brings you up against, do I want to? Do I give a damn? Now, some people just don't give a damn. They're very busy digging holes. And they don't care about love. They just care about whether or not that hole's deep enough to bury the body they've got next to it in it. So how do we think this through? We have to recognize in ourselves that we have faculties that we have not fully developed.
Yeah.
Like visualization. Can you visualize an apple? Not see an apple. We know you can see one in the store. But can you actually visualize a Washington Delicious? They're red, they're crispy, they have a certain shape, they smell a certain way. When you cut them, if they're ripe, they're crisp, juicy. You see, the more you can visualize that in your intellect, in your mind, the closer you are to being able to apply yourself to wanting one of those things with your emotional nature, which says, God, I really do want one of these right now. And then immediately life sets about producing an apple in your life. Because the next thing after, hey, that thing looks really good in my mind, I think I'd like one to make an apple thing for dinner. Then you remember the Ralph's right down the street or some grocery store has a bunch of them. Maybe not Washington Delicious, maybe they're not in season. Let's go find out. So you're on your way to getting an apple. But that started with imagining it, desiring it, and setting yourself in motion towards it. So if you want love, and it's a complete, you don't know what love looks like. You know what a Washington Delicious apple looks like. But what does love look like? How does it taste? How does it feel? See, the emptiness inside a human being of the reality of love makes even imagining it early on in the game, later you get better at it, but imagining it a challenge. But without imagining it intellectually, without thinking about your aspiration to have it in your life, it's hard to set those powers of nature in motion to produce it for you.
Yeah.
But it's no different than an apple. If you want it fully functional around you, take some time to get to know it, to think about that process, to put that in motion. Now that's the process of visualization with the apple, but then it becomes a little more when you add emotion to it, because emotion is a power. It's a current, like electricity. And so if you turn up the emotion, you're intensifying the desire for it. And that makes it more imperative in your life to the point where you reach for the car keys because I've got to go get an apple. Well, do you think love is there too?
Do you think part of why this is such a long process is because we're looking at basically trying to fill that void within us with everything that is not love, and there are a lot of things that
yeah, but that's a secondary problem. The first, if you're reaching for, if you can't find a Washington Delicious, then you can find another apple. There's lots of different kinds. We've bred all kinds of apples, galas and all these different apples, so we can go find something that's not the taste I was looking for, but it's close. That's what we do with when we can't find what we love. When we can't find what we love, it's the old song, if you're not with the one you love the one you're with. So, Taylor, you know all about that song. Just kidding. Well, so what do you do about all that? You figure out what's missing. And we're so far from love without any capacity to know that livingness, coming alive. Look, it's the thing that makes life vibrant in a way that there is no comparison to, because it's the energizing aspect of life itself. Now, maybe it has other energizing aspects that we don't know about, but if you're going to enter into ecstasy, you're going to do it with love, because love vibrating inside a human body can create ecstasy. Now, everybody thinks they would like that, and it's not a bad thing, but you can't live in that state of ecstasy all the time, because your nervous system is not able to handle it and go on about its normal business. It will someday be able to, because when you raise the purification of your body is not some religious concept about being worthy of God or some silly idea like that. It's about being pure enough that you can pass a lot of the current of love through your nature without overheating, so to speak, because that's what happens. Electricity will go through copper wire, but it'll go through gold wire better, because gold wire has less resistance to electricity. So if you put too much electricity through a copper wire, it's going to melt. It's going to heat up. And if you try to put it through an iron wire, it'll heat up really fast. And it won't transmit at all through some other materials. So we're no different, because we're built out of the mineral kingdom. We're built out of these substances. And we've corrupted ourselves with cheap booze and low desires. So here we are, and now we think, oh, well, ecstasy would be great, but how much can you handle if you're a lead wire? So the process of purification is a process of getting more capable of passing greater power through you. Now, it's never as simple as that. Nothing is ever simple in the world of love, because love will not burn you. It's one of those energies that it's a fire that doesn't burn, the material world. But it can stimulate so much material energy in you, like the sun itself, that you will heat up from it. If the resistance in the wire to electricity is high enough, the wire heats up. But it's not the electricity that's the problem. It's the resistance. And in us, we have built so much resistance into ourselves to the energy of love. We've diminished our capacity to experience great life in us, that most humans could not endure that much of it. So, and we even make it an enemy of ourselves. We go through psychologies which reject love, religions that reject love, philosophies, sciences. We've really fallen far down into the rejection of life in its pure, active form. And then we become incapable of experiencing it temporarily, because our form is now too corrupt, too dense, too artificial, so to speak.
Is that both consciously and in a material way, or is the material just a reflection of the conscious resistance that we kind of have within us?
Well, as the saying goes, you are what you eat. So we've had a steady diet of things that are charged with energies that resist love. Bad food. And we don't always know what those are. We don't know whether putting Roundup in the middle of the DNA of corn causes a resistance to love in us or not. There's a lot of people that are concerned about interfering with the DNA of wholesome and natural plants by putting things like Roundup, which is a pesticide, in them. Could be not healthy. Now, I don't know where they would get that idea necessarily, but people are thinking that. And water is no different. Fresh water, clean water, pure water. The human body seems to do well with that. It flushes out contaminants in our cells and things like that. But if you contaminate the water with too much mercury or lead or one of the other minerals that doesn't do well in a human body, then we start having health issues. Well, it's that, but on all the levels.
Yeah.
What was the Japanese guy's name? I can't remember his name. But he would make snowflakes out of water by charging the water with certain emotions and energies, and it altered the way the snowflakes form.
I think it was Satoshi.
In other words, huh?
I think it was Satoshi.
Yeah. I think there's an O in it. Well, anyway, it doesn't matter. It's really worth looking at, though, and you can just do it by saying, Japanese snowflake distortions, and you'll come up in Google with this guy, and he's a wonderful guy, and he started out putting contaminants in the water, and then when you try to make a snowflake, as you might figure, it's distorted from a perfect, beautiful architecture of a snowflake to something distorted because there's something in the water contaminating it.
He took it further. He would just place water in a cup, and he would have it labeled with a character, one that meant love, and then he would do negative characters, right? Like for hate or vice versa. And then he would take a drop and freeze it on a little slide, right? And then slide it under a microscope. And the ones that had this characters of things like love and peace and all these beautiful, kind of vibratory words, they would form into these beautiful, elegant geometric figures. And the ones that had the negative things, they would be contorted. They wouldn't form properly, even their structure themselves wouldn't have the geometrical, wouldn't follow the properties of a hexagon or whatever it is. It is really interesting to look at, because you think of, it's just a word, it's same water, everything's the same, except it has a different characters, with those signatures on them, that the water.
That's correct. Which tells you, and look, as a scientist, you keep striving to eliminate influences to see how high can this frequency go and still interfere with the forming of a beautiful snowflake. So he tried to do it so that, because he thought, well, if you write the word hate on a piece of tape and stick it on a bottle of water, then you're realizing that you have put hate on that water, and it's you doing that to the water. And that's probability. See, that's a possible scientific thesis based on telepathy or emotional transference, or however you care to think about it. And that he proved was true. If I wrote love on the bottle, hate on the bottle, I love you, mercy, justice, fairness, those words, I influence the way the snowflake appears. Then he thought, well, what happens if people don't know what they're putting on the bottle? In other words, it's in a foreign language, and so you just shuffle up some papers and you take out one of them and you stick it on the bottle, and you don't even know what that means, because I wouldn't know what love looks like in a Chinese character or a Japanese character. So he did that, and he found out that it still influences the water. Even when the person doing it, the student in the laboratory, doesn't know what the symbol represents. So now he's got a whole nother thing going on. There's something in that symbol that interferes with the water. And that partly gives us an insight into the nature of love, which gives us insight into the nature of meaning. Because every symbol, and remember, every letter, my name, your name, a written word, the word love, the word hate, the word trapdoor, these are a group of symbols which has a meaning. based on what that group of symbols was created from the awareness of. In other words, if you see a thing that's a trap door, you think, well, what do we call that? Well, it's kind of a door and it's kind of a trap because it's in the floor. And if someone stepped there and it opened, you could fall through. So that's a trap door. So we name things according to what they symbolize. And that brings us to the meaning behind the symbol. And the meaning behind the symbol of all material things is there. It exists. You can't create a thing without the meaning coming with it. Now, a tree is a tree. It creates itself from the seed. But behind that outer form of that tree is the life of the tree, creating it from its meaning. Mm-hmm. Now, that's a first step in the direction of love. If you want to incorporate love into your life, get to the meaning behind the symbol. And that starts a process of activity in your consciousness, in your visualization, in your imagination. And this is a really important issue because humanity struggles with this. Freud thought that love was the imagination of the personality seeking something that it doesn't possess, something more perfect than itself. So it was an emotional approach towards fantasy. Now, others will tell you that love is not that at all, and that we have in us this desire and hunger to embrace that which we are unconscious of, which actually is creating great beauty and great truth and great harmony in the universe. Now, from a certain point of view, Freud is right, because if he was a master of mind of the personality, the human personality. So when you take the love out of it, what you've got left is this mess that doesn't know anything about reality. And if it's just sit around hoping that it gets laid this weekend and that's its idea of love, then he might be right about that, because it's an emotional desire for something to give it pleasure. So if you're just defining the human personality, then Freud is a really accurate guy, because he really studied the human personality. But he may have not known anything about the human soul or human love or the higher frequencies of the universe. Yeah. He may not even been trying to figure those out. That's not his job. That's the job of Kant or Camus or some other philosopher or something, one of the Stoics from the Greeks. Let them do that. I'm looking at the human personality and I'm trying to define it. But imagination is defined by those who experience the fullness of love as a power of love to visualize and create from itself. So it's really a question of what you are identified with. If you are identified yourself as a physical personality, the animal in which you live, the emotions that you have, the thoughts that you think, if that's all there is to you, then you're going to be very limited in your assets. You're leaving your best assets on the table. But if you say, I think there are deeper assets in me and I want to activate them and bring them into my conscious experience, and love is one of them, then you start looking for how to do that, which is why we created the Love Foundry. It's not a book full of answers. It's a way to experience the deeper part of yourself that holds those realities ready to be released into your conscious use. Yeah. Is that right, Taylor, or no?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. Well, if it's in line with the thinking that you were expressing a moment ago.
I wanted to look up the doctor, because I'm not getting the name right, that was doing these experiments, because it's really cool. It's worth looking at.
I think it begins with an O.
Tomo Kazumi. Does that sound right?
I don't know. I don't.
Oh. I just looked up, experiments with water crystals, and that's the doctor that showed up. But it's easy to find. It's really well known stuff.
Yeah, it is. And he was brilliant.
I want to leave them.
And when he first did it, and I remember when it first hit the news somewhere back in the 70s or 60s or something, and he may have been doing it for years before that, and we never knew it because it didn't get to our shores. But when it first did hit, then a lot of the scientists were like, yeah, oh, this is a lot of new age hooey wooey, and so okay, that's fine, maybe it is. But when it's kind of like Kirlian photography, which is what the Russians came up with, which demonstrates the etheric body of something by cutting a leaf in half and then stimulating the remaining half and then photographing it. You see the missing half. And how can you see the missing half? Because it's gone. What you see is the etheric energy of the missing half, which is still there with the wholeness of the leaf. It just lost its physical body. So that set a whole bunch of thoughts in motion about these invisible forces that exist in the material world, as did Ozumi or whoever the guy was that made the crystals.
But look how far they took that.
Yeah,
now got entanglement theory that they've proved. They'll take something as far as out of the atmosphere, right?
Right.
And when something is affected out there, it affects the part that's still here. It's like really crazy how far physics has taken that.
Well, this because they study stuff.
It started as art, like you were saying, like these these Russian artists, set that in motion. So it's that same thing, you take it back to the apple. It's like you start with this image making power that you have that comes from where? Where did that come from? And you focus in on that and you start, and when it expands out, just to take it back to focus of the podcast, which is love. It's like you start with that imagining and you put it there and you put it in your imagination and like that snowball effect. I mean, it's pretty amazing how fast it can grow.
Well, but the thing about it is deceiving. It's deceiving because you live in an instinctual nature.
Right.
Like the tree, you have an instinct. The plant instinct is to create the plant that's in the seed. There can't be anything in the tree that isn't in the seed. This is kind of a spiritual axiom, which may or may not be true. I think it's probably true, but because the seed builds the potential in it to unfold itself into the tree. But it's going to have to draw all the material atoms of the tree out of the earth around it, the space around it, the air around it. I mean, so 80% of a tree is taken from the air, which is carbon. That's where CO2 and trees come into games. But the point about that is that the being that you are is growing a human, but from your instinctual nature, because you're in an animal, you're living inside of an animal. And a cockroach is an animal. Not compare Seb to a cockroach, but I mean, if the shoe fits, what can I tell you? So maybe he would rather be referred to as a koala bear or something more huggable. But the point is that we are a manifestation of an instinctual nature. And so, but we are also more than that, because you're more than the animal you live in. And that's a controversy which from a scientific point of view, they weigh people and see if they're lighter when they die and all of that stuff to try to figure out how much does the soul weigh. But the reality is that you are not your thoughts. You're thinking your thoughts, and you're not your emotions. You're qualifying energy into emotions, and you're not the physical form you're in. You're eating food to build that form according to a blueprint inside of you. So who are you doing all of that? Mm-hmm. And can you become conscious of yourself as the God of your own creation? And that's a very valuable question to ask yourself, because it gets you one step.
Sorry, I just something came to mind I listened to today. I was one of the Hawaiian elder, they call them kapunas, that was talking about that there's two of you. There is, and your job in this, from this guy's perspective, that your job in this life is to nurture your soul ego, is how he refers to it. But there's this divine part of you, and there's two. He's like, so when you come into this world, while you're still in form and in creation, your job is to nurture that soul ego and to build it up. And the other part of you is there, and your job is to connect the two, because there's a part of you that's down here that you want to connect to the part of you that's up here. And so your job is to nurture that one below to bring it up. So it was a kind of interesting perspective, because it's a very Hawaiian way of looking at things, right? It's very grounded, grounded down into
right.
the earth.
Which is why the Ho'oponopono works.
Mm-hmm.
Because that's true. But and look, in what you just said is a triad. It's not a duality.
Mm-hmm.
It's not this Taylor in the world growing up and being an animal body and a human body and a person, and then having a divine self as a prototype or something to connect to that, to manifest from that level.
You're the copper wire.
Yeah,
Gold.
because there's a third element, which is that aspect of life, which is doing both of those things. It's manifesting your subjective life, your inner nature in the world of love, and your outer nature in the world of the material object. And the concept that those two can be connected together in your consciousness. They're already connected together, or your heart would stop beating. Animal natures don't live simply out of themselves because they eat food. There's something in the instinctive nature of that creature which keeps it living. It keeps the heart beating. It keeps the consciousness functioning. And that's the argument between the materialist and the one who thinks that life is greater than the material form. Well,
that's
obviously
what I liked
life,
about this point of view too, was there's this, this negative aspect that comes with the ego, part of your life. And I like this perspective, because he's talking about nurturing that, growing that up, rather than trying to push it farther away or down, right? Like there's the unifying aspect. Yeah, but it was like a way of uplifting the wholeness of it, rather than, push this one down so you can grow into this one, and it actually stretches it farther apart. So
yeah. I think nurturing as well is a good word, because my association with nurturing is, with like a child, you love it despite everything, because there's an innocence to that. And I'm not saying we're very innocent, but there is an aspect but there is a way to look at ourselves and be gentle and forgiving and loving towards ourselves, because there is a big level of unconsciousness to a lot of things. And I have a lot of issues with judging myself, and I know myself that that's a trap and it gets in the way.
Well, if you judge yourself, you judge everyone else too, because they're measures of yourself. They're better looking than you, or not as good looking as you, but the judgment applies to everything. And yeah, we all have that. We all do that. I'm a Virgo, so of course I judge everything. But that's so.
Jack says it really well. He says, if you can see it, you got it. It's the reason that you're able to recognize it is because you got it.
Yeah, that's right. That's so we might as well recognize that it's all true. Hemingway wrote a book, The Sun Also Rises, and the whole book is a story of what's passing through a man's mind as he's dying. And we don't know that as we're reading the book, so to speak. But in the last,
you ruined the whole book for us.
I know, but nobody's going to read Hemingway anymore. It's like, it's gone. I mean, the guy blew his brains out, so maybe we don't trust him anyway. But the point is, the last line of that book is that I realized that there isn't any one true thing, which everybody thinks there's this truth and that truth, and they're right and I'm wrong, and they're right and I'm wrong. And so, but there isn't any one great truth. It's all true. That was the that was the summation of his thought about writing the book, which if you can write a book out of that idea, then you're a good writer. So,
I disagree though.
Huh?
I disagree though.
You don't think it's all true?
Well, I think that there is an ultimate true, but there's just a million, trillion, countless ways of getting there, and all those paths are leading to that truth. So they're true in their path to it. But I believe there is an ultimate truth at the source of it all.
Yes, but it's the comment was, it's not that there's any one great truth, it's that it's all true.
Yeah, well, I guess.
And that's the source that's the source that's causing all of those beams of light, or those aspects of perception for us to see as we look towards love, which is perfect. You see, what is the nature of Christ consciousness? What is the nature of that concept in human thinking? It's perfect love. It's the love that is everything added together at once at cause. And then as it streams out into the universe, each ray of that looks to the one who is on that ray, who is the animation of that ray, as if that were true. Because they're right. It is true. I'm true. I'm true to that. But that doesn't make you not true to your particular point of view. And we don't know that that's true about the Israelis and the Arabs and the Ukrainians and the Russians and the Chinese and us. We don't know that all of that is true until we become conscious of love. Once we become conscious of the purity of love, the wholeness of that unity, then we see that that is true. It's all true. And it all leads back to one thing. And I am a part of that one thing. Or maybe I'm all of that one thing, seeing myself as a part of it. So that brings us into unity. That brings us into the realization that there's nothing in the universe that you aren't at one with, actually. Now, if you're not at one with it in your consciousness...
Whoa, mind blown.
Well, again... So the question we're looking at here is, how do you connect with that vitality that knows that feels that? I have a
question that may or may not be exactly relevant, but I hope it is, because I'm preparing for 7th grade, right? And so I'm always reading, some of Steiner's lectures on this stage of development, Rudolf Steiner. And there's a part of this lecture where he talks about the heart, and he's talking about how, it's not exactly what everyone thinks it is, but it's an organ of perception. And so I thought that might tie into what you're talking about right now. And I'm sorry if that stares it off, but I always wanted to dive a little deeper into that idea. Anyways.
Well,
and I thought
I like the way you open boxes in such casual capacity.
Well, because we're talking about perception here, and obviously there's other organs of perception than just what we see.
What organ of perception are you going to use to understand love if it isn't the heart?
Right.
So the mind has great properties, but it doesn't have the same properties as the heart. The heart has properties that bring you into conscious receptivity to the unity and the divine power that makes a magnetic field inclusive of everything within it. The nature of love is a magnetic field. Well, the universe itself is a magnet. It's one big giant magnet. And the field in which it puts out, the property of unity that it puts out, being a unified magnet, even though all the actions are motion, or they're all in motion, they're also in motion in the bar of a magnet. If you look inside of a magnet, you'll see all the atoms are moving around. So the field of magnetic inclusiveness, that is the universe itself, is one thing. And everything in the universe, because everything is an atom in the universe at some level of maturity and development, is part of that field. So the field of it is the nature of love, because it is a unified field. It's not the idea of a separated atom having its own little field. It's the idea of the total field, including all of the atoms together. And that there's a form of unity in that concept that brings you into the livingness that produces it. So when we think about life, we realize that life is producing magnetic field. It's also producing the linear power of electricity as a straight line. It's also producing all the interaction of things as information and knowledge. An atom has various things that make it function. It has electrons, protons, and neutrons. So we can name a thing as something within the properties of matter that create an atom. But we can also name the magnetic field and look inside that for a type and aspect of life that connects us all together in a way that is living. It's a living thing. It's not a, you can take a picture of a magnetic field, but you'll never see it still. It's going to be constantly in motion because of its nature, what it actually is. Now, water can be still. You can have a glass of water and you can have a running stream. But a magnetic field is the property of all of the atoms that make it up. Now, it might seem relatively still because the atoms are maybe a certain number of them and they're all certain balanced way, and the magnetic field seems very stable. But that's just from our observation. It's not itself actually that way, because each atom is spinning around being influenced by things that are flying through the space. You know, those little invisible quarks and things that go through our matter. Mm-hmm. So if we're going to become conscious in ourselves of the nature of love, we're going to have to transcend our average and usual state of thinking, which is based on matter. It's based on material objectivity, like intellect. And feeling is not the magnetic field. It's a portion of the magnetic field qualified with a specific intention. I'm jealous of that bitch. She's after my guy. So if we take a piece of the magnetic field and we qualify it with a personal intention, then we create a force of nature. But because we can't love her anymore, we did like her. She was kind of nice. She came over, took care of the kids, helped you can fruit. But now she's after your guy. So that creates a specific emotion in you, or in Seb, depending on how we look at it. But so what do we do about that? How do we restore ourselves to the magnetic field? How do we not lose it when you see that somebody's after your guy? That's the maturity of a human being. That's what we're growing towards. We're growing to a place where we realize it's more important to hold unity and the energy that makes unity, that makes the magnetic field, because we don't want to give up that unity in ourselves, than it is to be mad at this bitch. So that's the difference between ego and the soul consciousness.
I mean,
the
that
soul
makes a lot
is
of
not
sense with the resistance element too. It's like the resistance in a magnet. It's like you don't want to be pushing against the unity of it with that force you're creating within it, right? It's kind of like the same thing, forcing love out of your consciousness. You know, with all this resistance, it's like it doesn't have that inclusivity that just embraces it all. It's like you're creating these little, you know, resistances that force it right out.
Well, you don't. You force it out of your own consciousness. You see, the resistance in a magnet is there. It's there by the nature of the condition of the atoms. An iron magnet is a metal which has its own impurities. It has its own stage of evolution as those atoms. So it's really a question of whether you want to lose consciousness of the magnetic field while you focus on the resistance of any one atom. Mm-hmm. If you do that, if you drop into
pull yourself out, right?
Yes, if you do that, then you're human beings being mad at other human beings for not being more perfect than they already are. When how perfect are you? And that's
silly humans.
Yeah. Silly human. And that's where we get these things of, you know, worry about the beam in your eye and not the mote in somebody else's. Mm-hmm. But I
always look at it as it's getting involved in the drama, because I feel like human life is just full of drama if we want it to be. And it's like, do you invest yourself into the drama, or do you see it, observe it, but try and hold yourself still consciously in love? Because I think it's so easy to slip into the drama, to get invested in human life, be that politics, be that relationship, be that, you know, getting worked up in traffic. It's so easy to let yourself slip into the drama as if like that's important, and give it weight. And then as soon as you do, you go to focusing on that, and you slip out of holding any sort of consciousness of love.
Okay, but what's wrong with that idea?
You
I
can
don't know.
include love in it, right?
Well, no, but yeah,
what's
you
wrong
can.
with drama?
I'm just saying,
And have fun. The way that I address it, because I come up with this. Don't worry, Seb. We all know what the hell you're talking about. We all experience it. But whatever I can approach it with a spirit of fun, like it's the human drama can be a fun, just like theater or, you know, something like that. And then you're able to keep that continuity with love in it. And then sometimes it overtakes you because human drama can be heavy, can weigh on you pretty
well,
good.
Look, if you ever been to a funeral, Seb?
yes.
Okay. Well, at a funeral, we're in sort of a, what am I supposed to do here? Cry because we lost this person that we all liked? That's what everybody else wants to do, but that's not what I want to do. See, I don't cry well, I have cried at funerals, that's for sure, because grief is a real thing. But the spirit of life offers you other options. It offers you the option of joy. Now, how do you have joy at a funeral? And is that the appropriate energy to have? So there's nothing wrong with drama. So the point I'm trying to make to you is, if you separate yourself from the drama that you don't like, then you have fallen into the trap of opposites and separation. I like this, but I don't like that. But
no,
that's
when I
part of
mention
life.
drama, I just mean when we get lost and invested in it. You know, there's a place to see and like be you're still aware of everything that's going on. You don't need to judge it, but rather than getting lost into it, that becomes your only reality. That there's a way to stand. Just you're still a part of it, but not getting lost in it, and holding consciousness of love. I think
okay, but let me go back to what you're saying. It's, if you're aloof from it, you're separate from it. If you're drawing it as something outside of your nature, you see, it's all you. You're already in it. It's too late for you to take a position. If you're the policeman that shows up at the argument that two people are having, then you're in a role. You're already invested. You're there to be the police person.
Yeah.
And so you have to bring something to it. And they're arguing, bitching at each other, he this, she that, whatever that guy did to me, stole my thing. Whatever that is, you can't avoid your interaction with it. So what can you do? And this is the point of investing yourself in love. If you bring love to the moment, that does not deny the relevance of someone's personal feelings, someone's choice.
Let me give you a real specific situation, because it's all relevant. This happened last night, and it was kind of troublesome to me. Me and Johnny go out to Polly's, that little Mexican restaurant I told you to go get a chili relleno at.
Yeah.
And it's like towards the end of the meal, and something happens. There's this table in the middle, and there's these two guys that obviously been there since happy hour, and they're having a good time. They're, they weren't even being obnoxious, but then this family of local people comes and sits down at the booth next to them, right? A couple big, kind of burly guys, and their wives and little kids, like 2 and under, and maybe a grandma. And all of a sudden, one of these drunk guys must have somehow offended this guy at the table, and he gets up and like slams this guy down, glass shatters on the floor, picks the guy up, smacks him like really hard in the side of the head. And this guy's not trying to fight him, like he's not trying to engage in violence, But it wasn't, it was like, then the little kids are all crying. These kids just watch their father behave this way in like a family dining situation. I'm like, I'm so glad my kids aren't here. And, you know, and at that time I was like, up against kind of what you're describing here, was like, obviously I'm not, this is happening. And, you know, and then the cops all come and then they ask if I saw anything, which of course, no, I didn't see anything. But, you know, it's like all of a sudden you're engaged in this human drama that's happening right in front of you, and it's an act of violence, which, you know, I have a hard time with. And so it's kind of like, where do you stand when you're in that, right? So that's my specific example of what I think you're trying to explain. So in that situation, you know, how do you not hold yourself separate, let it be present, and still carry this? Because violence is a hard one. Like when you're up in a human situation like that, it's a little bit difficult for me to hold any kind of state of joy or, you know, bring love into that situation, which I consciously knew was what was needed at that moment too. So it's not that I was, you know, unconscious to the
But what
max.
I can't believe is you sent me to that restaurant to have a chili relleno, for God's sake.
I knew you'd have a good time.
Well, I do like a good bar fight.
I was waiting for the bar stool to get picked up.
They like do. That's why they screw them to the floor in Minnesota, because those boys are too big to be hitting each other with bar stools. All right, so that's the point, Seb. Is it's an intellectual idea that you could separate yourself from any of this mess we're in. But what you can do is become and look, this is natural and logical thinking in a person who does not have the power of love in their nature to apply to the situation. Taylor's talking about the vulnerability of it, being there as an observer, but you're also powerless. I mean, the Hawaiians can be pretty big guys, and when that party starts getting rock and roll, then, and you're not a pretty big guy, then you just kind of got to move away, you know. So violence is always like that. And I've been around enough violence to know that it gets out of hand sometimes. And so, but you're there, you're already in it. Now you can run for the exit, which is a logical thing to do, particularly if it's going to be a gunfight. So it's the powerlessness of human beings that makes us try to find ways to control this. Call the cops, do something, because I don't have the personal power to have an influence in this of sufficient strength. And we can't even, as humans, we've lost even the ability to imagine anybody in the room with us that does have that power. You know, if Christ is in the room, maybe that something can be done, but we don't imagine that beings of that kind of capacity with love are around. And maybe that kind of being would choose to let it go because it's not something they want to interfere with. I don't know, because I'm not that being in that room at that time. But the idea of investing the energy of love into your life changes everything about how you see all of this, because now all of a sudden you're bringing, you know, a gun to a knife fight. Now you have something that has power that you didn't have before. So do you want that power? Do you want the inclusive energy of love to be part of your aspects and attributes, your arsenal in dealing with the human condition? Now, the Maharishis group, when the Maharishi was around back in the 70s and so on, they would send meditators into cities that were in some kind of turmoil. They might send 30 or 40 or 50 guys in, and they would go there and meditate in the middle of the city if it was in a turmoil. Why? To try to bring compassion and harmony to the condition. Now, how much impact did they have on that group global field of energy, which we were thinking of as love? How much can they influence the whole field by being in that field and being dynamically visualizing, imagining, or drawing that out of themselves into the space? Well, it is arguable. Some people say things really settle down quickly when they would show up for this kind of energetic aspect. Some didn't think it made much difference. It doesn't matter what anybody thinks. It's a matter of what people do. And then that grows the process of it. Gandhi's one single guy that liberates India from the British rule by finding group cooperation among his people to the point that the British didn't have any choice because the magnetic field changed. He shifted the point of view. He shifted the energetic. Now that's a scientist applying principles that they understand to a situation in order to bring about a result. So it's true. We cannot want to get personally involved so that we're mad at the guy that started the fight and we're not mad at the guy that he beat up because we feel sorry for him. You see, that's what you're talking about. You're talking about not taking sides, but that doesn't mean you can't take the third position, which is loving all of them into harmony. That's a concept. That's something that could be done. And Taylor's got 3 kids, and when they're all bitching at each other with a big shit fight going on in the kitchen or something, then she has to come in and create harmony among all 3 of them. And that isn't by choosing to make one wrong and another one right. That doesn't usually work itself out to harmonize the situation. That just polarizes the situation. So whether it's politics or family or our personal relationship to the mob around us in the street, if we don't make love a dynamic, active power principle in our nature, it's not going to become that in the group. So each of us has the responsibility to do that. And that means taking action with the meaning behind the symbol. Everybody's a symbol, a complex symbol, and of their history. When you put a Hawaiian in the family in the booth, they are complex symbols created out of the cultural experiences they've had in their innate nature and all of that. And then you put somebody over here in another table from Montana, and you've got a different set of dynamics. And so how do you harmonize those two together if they have hostilities, or if they have the favorite word in the world, racism, going on in them? And racism is a paint by number picture. Because you're a different color, I can now have a racist feeling, when really I just don't like you. And it's a collective view because I've known others that were colored the same way you. So you see, it's not a real thing. It's about your relationship to certain energies you're not in harmony with. So when love enters you and enters your conscious experience as something you've gone and gotten and brought it into your imagination and brought it into your visualization and brought it into your emotional body and into your mind, now you're starting to apply it to the room, and it starts to become a property of your nature. It's already in your nature. You have as much love in you as the Christ, but how much of it are you accessing? Mm-hmm. It's just a question of letting it live in you. Right. So we've all got it. We've all got the same amount. And some people squeeze it down till it doesn't even show up at all. And some people try to open up and let it have a lot of action in us. But there's a difference between acting as if you had love and actually generating the energy of it. And that takes a certain kind of discrimination. It takes the ability to see that I want this, I'm posing as if it were real, but I want the reality of it to come out of my heart or out of my third eye or out of my being, whatever way you think it enters you, and start impacting the space. That's taking conscious responsibility to be something that you are convinced life is. Now, a lot of people that are spiritual people don't want to take responsibility. They want love to take responsibility, but they personally don't want to. So they think about not acting, not responding, not having any desire in the room. It's kind of a Buddhist thing in a lot of ways to say, well, I want to be a desireless being. Okay. Well, the truly mature person who says that doesn't mean he wants there to be nothing where he's standing. What he doesn't want is,
Because desiring no desire is still a fucking desire.
Yeah, well, that's true. But but when I say I don't want desire to be standing where I'm standing, what do you want then? I want to be egoless. I want my ego to not be taking sides. But I also want the property of love to be fully, radiantly uninfluenced, even by my conditioning. So that's unconditional love, or love unconditioned by my ego.
Yeah.
Now, when a Buddha's being desireless, that doesn't mean he's being an empty circle. That means that reality itself is there without him putting any conditions on it. And that sounds like giving up your individuality. So people don't want to do that because we love our separate individuality. We love that our foot is a number 12 boot. We like who we are. We like what we are. Even if we despise ourselves, we like the idea of being able to despise ourselves. It's just being alive. Being alive is a wonderful thing. But letting love occupy the space you're in fully and completely doesn't mean you're not alive. It means you're fully alive. You're ecstatically alive. And if you're not interfering with love by qualifying it, you're not being a lumberjack, you're just being a center of radiant love, then you're not limiting it. It's an unlimited expression. But it just means that your own individuality is so crystal clear that it's not coloring it with any of your personal crap. You're not turning it into something that you want it to be, which is what these guys in the bar are doing. They're giving their personal opinion to each other in a very forceful way. But the truth of it is it's just two baggy afternoons having it out in front of the thrift store, isn't it? So stop that and realize the love potential that's in you, and the harmony between you might shift. It won't do it immediately with a lot of people because we are very weak in it. So we say, hold on. We separate the people, we let them calm down. And then later on, they shake hands in the parking lot and go home, unless one of them's brained the other with a beer bottle. So it's important that we look at this in terms of what are the powers inside of you to be dynamically positive, to be dynamically creative with love in the same space you occupy with Seb. Not to be disconnected from someone else's madness or someone else's imperfection, but to be there so dynamically perfect that other people are getting harmonized by the very fact of it. Now, imagine a
it's like
PTA meeting, huh? Yeah, it's the coloring that you bring. Now, you can be in a PTA meeting with a whole bunch of parents, and one person can be so angry and upset and hateful that they poison the entire crowd.
It's true, yeah.
And everybody's angry, everybody's hateful, everybody's upset. Well, the reverse of that is true also. One can be so positively, inclusively loving that they can harmonize the whole crowd into understanding each other's point of view and coming to a consensus relative to love, not relative to separativeness, not relative to we're right and you're wrong.
Right, yeah.
Because everybody's point of view is correct from that point of view. It's what you're missing that puts you into an argument with someone else. So now, Seb, do you understand what I'm trying to say? Is you're right about not wanting to get caught up in the streets, frustrated emotional angers, illusions, glamours, Maya, the energy that's all disturbed all over the street.
Yeah.
Being able to walk through that is a spiritual disciple's dream. I want to be able to walk right through that without being seen, even without interfering, without causing negative reactions, without doing any of that. But that also does not mean that you don't desire to be a positive asset in it. Otherwise, spiritual beings will never bring harmony to the world.
Yeah.
It has to be, and it isn't a desire for Taylor to change to suit your particular point of view of how a mother should be, a person should be, or somebody else to change. It's a question of how love changes Taylor as she grows into full activity with it. Yeah. Because that's then her release. It's her rightness of expression. And it's hard to be that impersonal towards other people, where you don't want them to give up their conservative point of view, their socialist point of view, their whatever frickin' point of view anyone has, because from their point of view, they're correct. People getting along and sharing in a harmonious way is society being social. There's nothing wrong with that.
Seb
Everybody
has that
wants
natural
that
propensity too. He's got that natural, like, way of entering the room and bringing it like into a group dynamic.
Right.
Like he naturally does it when we do meditations together and stuff. Seb has that. Yeah. He has that natural.
You're talking about
towards it.
You're talking about. You were gone there for a moment. What is that?
That bring like a group into a unity kind of ability. He like naturally. I don't know how, but naturally.
Who's he?
Seb.
Who's? Oh, Seb. He doesn't have a trace of that in. What are you kidding?
No, even like when we'll do group diet, like we'll do group meditation stuff sometimes, and as soon as Seb jumps on the call, it's like it shifts a little, or it pulls the group a little tighter.
No, it starts wiring itself. Yeah, it starts wiring itself towards a unity, towards a group unity. And that's because somewhere inside of him, probably unknown to himself, he has a strong desire for that. And not only does he have a desire for it, we're talking about you, Seb, because I don't even know if you're here or not, but we can talk about you even though you are here, because we don't care. But even though he has that, I'm not sure that he knows how that works in him. But the more
I'm sure he doesn't.
Oh, no, well, I'm not.
Well,
no, he is clueless.
Really
we know
when
that.
You have those effects on things, you don't notice because you're in it. You're not standing outside observing.
Well, it's true of a lot of people. There are people, and it's important to register the truth of this, kidding aside. There are people that walk into the room and the room becomes more harmonious just because they walked in. And they didn't know they even did that, because their heart has that openness to the room that doesn't judge different points of view. It includes all of those points of view in a basic fundamental, not belief, but a fundamental knowing that that's true, that harmony is the root of the universe. And the whole, by the way, what is the purpose of love itself in the universe as it goes out there and does all of this stuff it's doing moment to moment to moment to moment to moment, except to bring the whole universe into harmony with itself? Where do we end up if a love has its way with the universe? The universe will end up in perfect harmony, top to bottom, inside out. And all those places in the universe that seem to be out of harmony with any other part of the universe will begin to hum. Now, that won't change the actual nature of any life in the universe. Harmony does not force a note to be different than that note. It just brings it into balance with all the other notes.
Right.
And when you listen to people creating great harmony vocally or musically, we suddenly understand this is beautiful. If you can get 60 instruments to play in harmony with each other, we get one great sound. But each of those notes is still there, but it's there in their closer to their perfection.
I'm about to get this interrupted on my end. So I'm going to say goodbye to you both and thank you very much for allowing me to interfere in the podcast today.
Thank you,
well, hold on, Taylor, before you just bail on us and pull the ripcord.
I don't want to shake it up too much.
We get it, but when you know you got to go, we'll wrap it up with that. So the point of coming into yourself, inside yourself, into your imagination and into your visualization and into your openness into the unity of love, that's what's going on today. what our conversation today was about, what's going on all over the world. Now, we're all relating to it differently, all countries, but it's going on. It's going on because Cancer is at its flood tide right now in the full moon we just had, and Jupiter's in the middle of Cancer, adding to that flood tide in a beautiful way, along with all the other assets that are there in this energetic pool we call Earth, you know? So take advantage of that, bring in the idea of that, and realize that it's awakening. It's awakening in the human race. And if we can hold that awakening against these angers and frustrations that Seb's trying to avoid, then we can transform the room with it. We can actually begin to get people to realize, okay, so I don't like that guy very much. He doesn't wear his socks right, but I don't care. It's all right. I can talk to him. I can wave at him when he pulls out of his driveway. I don't have to throw a rock at him. So that's a step. And eventually that step turns into harmony. And we find out that that guy across the street is like me. He spent a bunch of time in war somewhere and he got a little bit dingy. And so we understand that now. Now we accept the fact that it happens. So, you know, if you haven't spent 10 years in a coal mine, don't think you understand a coal miner. Yeah. They have their own peculiar rights because of the experience they've been through. And we've all been through our difficulties of life. So we are who we are. But in love comes healing. In love comes power. In love comes life itself as a joyful, ecstatic, resonant energy. And we all need that more than we need to be separate from it. So that's the point of today's little talk. And Taylor, we're done with it now. You can go put out the fires, whatever you're up to.
Half the house is burned down.
Yeah, by now the kids are remodeling the garage. It's funny when you've got 3 kids running around the house. It's like anything could be going on.
Oh yeah, absolutely anything.
Anything. I've had 3, raised 3, so I know what they can get up to. And so anyway, Seb, do you understand the nature of what I'm saying?
Yeah, I do. And yeah, it's really valuable actually to remember, because I think I think I'm quite good in a lot of ways of not getting too involved in the drama, but I think you're right in the fact that also puts me separated. I'm creating a separation from myself rather than seeing the drama and playing the role of love within it. You know,
exactly. That's the difficulty. And look, it's hard to do that. The Christ can do it. Spiritual masters can do it because they don't want an outcome. Wanting an outcome takes you away from standing in love, because love doesn't want an outcome except harmony. The will of the nature of love, the will of the divine life that's giving life, is harmony. That's what the will is doing.
Are you allowed to desire harmony?
Yeah, you allow desired harmony in you to be expressed, not in that other person, because we didn't discuss this with Taylor because she bailed on us before we got there, but it's okay. The thing that makes all of this not work and is the same thing that will make all of this work, and that's free will. Human nature is bound to free will. Yeah. Now, human nature doesn't understand why we're bound to free will because it hasn't even asked itself the question. It's a mysterious aspect of life, free will, because with love in the universe, all those beings that are conscious of love, what do they need free will for? And this brings us into the conversation of God. If God wants you to be this or that, what are you going to do about it? Are you going to reject that with your free will, or are you going to say yes? Now, humans, fuck you. I'm going to go to Boston and drive a cab. I don't care what my parents want. I don't care what God wants. I don't care what Marcia wants. I'm going to Boston to drive a cab because it's in them to do it. And they've got to say yes to that because it's just driving them crazy until they do it. So humans have this thing called free will, but that would not have been developed in the human race except in the absence of love. Because with love, you're in harmony with everything. You don't need to throw sand in someone's face at the beach. I mean, why would you do that? Because the bastard deserves it. You're going to kick sand on him, or because he looks like something I don't like. So that happens to people who are not conscious of love. We do things. We do things that we regret later because our free will engages us in ways. So the human race being unable to access love in itself up to this point in our history and some years in the future, because we were unable to access love in us, we had no other choice but to act on free will so that you can survive. Love will help you survive because it loves survival. It loves you. So it's hard to think about this, and it's hard to give it consideration in a mature way until we practice. But you can't accept yourself from the conversation of what makes love work. Why do you want it in your experience, and why is it important not to impose it on others unless you recognize the value of free will, not just in you, but in everyone else.
Yeah.
Because love will not violate free will. If you notice, people are capable of doing unloving acts towards one another. The human race specializes in that. We call it war. It's really destructive, and certainly unnecessary.
Yeah.
There's 8 billion people on the planet. We can work it out. We can actually have a good life for everybody without running out of anything and without being ridiculous if we actually wanted to do that, which maybe in the future we will. Yeah. But all of that is because of free will. And so that's why we can understand a totalitarian thinking, which says, if I just tell you all what to do and you do it, then we'll all get along great. But that doesn't work because it overrides this thing in the human nature called free will. So we rebel against it. That's what's going on all over the world right now. Those who are imposing will on others are being rebelled against, because love will eventually free them all from that imposition, because it respects free will itself. If love won't violate free will, it's not going to allow anyone else to do it either over the long term. Because if you are violating someone's free will, you're violating love. You're violating yourself, loving them. Now, that's not the same thing as controlling someone who's lost control and is harming people around them. That's a different thing. That's what we have police for. But police are supposed to not be personal about it. Well, of course, they're human beings, so they get mad at people for doing things to other people. And they maybe hit them harder than they should, or shoot them, or do whatever the police are willing to do sometimes. But it's what made an Irish cop a wonderful person in New York and Boston and other places, because Irish cops were human beings. They accepted the human condition. They knew that shit happens. So break it up, guys. Calm down, settle down. All of you get your shit together and go home and start tomorrow with a smile on your face. An Irish cop had that power to harmonize. They have harmony in them, unless they step over the boundary and take sides. So when we think about choosing ourselves into love, we come up against our own willingness to violate free will. And that's not something you want to do. You personally, that I've observed of you, don't like interfering with other people's free will. But that will cause you to give up your power. You like group power. You like group consciousness. So you support that in the room, but then you give up all of your willingness in a way that separates you from those people who are acting in ways that you judge. Instead of taking that distancing of others and turning it into amplifying love. You see, there's always a choice that you can make better than the one you're making at any given moment. And that's true of people at all levels of their story. So think about what you can do to amplify the unconscious energies of love that you still don't have dynamic power with, that you can't release the powerful properties of love. You can't yet turn water into wine or heal the sick. Maybe you can heal the sick, I don't know. But not the way love can.
Yeah.
But if you get out of the way and let love into the room, it can do a lot of healing things. And that means not separating yourself from other people's drama. That means accepting them exactly the way they are in their drama and embracing them with love. That takes ego. That takes your ego choosing to do that, to be that kind of a peacemaker or that kind of a friend, or that's called brotherhood. Brotherhood is the relationship between egos. Egos that give love to each other create brotherhood. So when the universe gives love to each other unrestrictedly, then brotherhood will be the universal condition, won't it? So there's a way to become the beings that we're going to become eventually that includes the wholeness of love and includes our own individuality in it and allows free will in a way that we don't yet know how to apply because we don't want to violate love. We kind of hold it restricted. You want to do the right thing, but you're not sure you will all the time because your words can turn into an argument with somebody. I've seen you try to help people and not necessarily work out that way.
Yeah.
So that's okay because we know we're imperfect. But if you focus on the increasing of love in the conversation while you're having it, then that's what's going to happen.
Yeah.
And so we learn how to do that. We learn how to not have personal judgment, but perception of the situation isn't making a personal judgment. It's the personal application of your history to the situation you're looking at. These two dogs are in a fight. If you see two dogs in a fight, you know it. And then your experience tells you, well, I want to separate this fight. But it's a true story of a dog fight. If you separate them too soon, they'll come right back at it again, won't they? But there's a certain point in a dog fight where the dogs have had enough. They don't really want to fight anymore. And then if you separate them, they won't come back to it. So you do two things in a dog fight. You try to keep them from destroying each other and any bystanders, and then wait for that moment when you can separate them and they won't come back at it again. And then the fight's over. And that's true of dogs and it's pretty true of human beings. You can feel it maybe you haven't been in as many fights as I have, but there's a truth to realizing that when there's a fight going on, there's a point at which the fight wants to end.
Yeah.
Then you can introduce the power of love in a way that you, up to then, are using it to just keep people from braining each other with bar stools. So that's what makes life exciting. But the thing that will change that is the amount of love we can bring to it. How much can I bring to this bar fight? And that will end it sooner than it otherwise might. But not if I make judgments about it, not if I get in the middle of it and act. And surprisingly enough, women have a tremendous power for this. As small and delicate as a woman might be, she can get in the middle of a bar fight and end it because she can express so much power in the room in a way that releases all that energy. Now, how do they do it? Because they have access to love in ways that guys don't have. We don't know how to do that. Often we don't. But that's just women growing the way women grow and men growing the way men grow until we finally figure it out with each other. And then we do both. Then we have our feminine and our masculine balancing in us, and then we can be a more whole person like that. But the point of this discussion that we're ending today is that it's inside of you. Love's inside of you. As much as the universe holds is inside of you.
Yeah.
So if you let it into your ego, into your human life, then it can flood out to the world. And if it's not doing it now, figure out why and change it.
Yeah.
Really, that's the challenge of the human race, isn't it? Yeah, kind of. Because we're not going to stop living. We're not going to stop having appetites, but we can increase love in our group experience to the point where we stop harming each other and the environment overdoing it. And you can't do that by forcing laws on people and having some external authority telling them, don't step on the grass.
Yeah.
There has to be a balance of all of that that makes it work. And it's coming, but it only happens when the love in you is real. Might not be big, might not be as big as the Christ or something like that, but it's recognized, it's desirable, it's increasing. Thank you for reminding me about the grass. I don't want to harm it either.
Yeah.
So you see, there's a rightness to the increasing magnitude of love in the human race. And then people are just saying, fuck you, I'll step on the grass if I want. It's kind of where we are a lot of the time, you know?
Yeah. Well,
Anyway,
we've always said this is a self-initiating process, but it's choosing love and choosing to be love in those moments, you know?
Yeah, well, it's so rare to us that we have to learn to choose love for love itself. So that we can familiarize ourselves with something we've been ignoring, totally ignoring. Now, how you can ignore something as dynamic and real and active as love is something I have no idea about, but we manage to do it on a daily basis.
And well,
yeah, no, we can do it to the point where it doesn't even seem to exist in our entire culture, our philosophy, our science, our religion, or in each other. Well, that's a pretty thorough cleansing of ourselves, of the nature of life itself in a very real way. So it's time to wake it back up, put it all back, give ourselves some freedom from the negative past, and maybe balance some of the karma that we've created.
Yeah.
I don't know. We'll see what the next great world religion demonstrates, because it's coming. It's all coming. Anyway, are we done with this for today?
We're done, and thank you, Dan. This is and Taylor, who's no longer here, but this has been beautiful for me. I don't know if anyone else, but thank you.
All right. Carry on.
Here. Thank you very much.
Don't you wanna know?